Hi, this is Elwin Robinson, founder of Lionheart Herbs and formulator of what I'm here to talk to you about right now, which is the Lionheart Herbs Longevity Tonic Tea Blend and Mix. And so this is basically a combination of 7 medicinal mushrooms. Now I've done the old inverted commas around medicinal because they're not technically medicine. In fact, they're one of the most food type of all tonic herbs, and tonic herbs are much more like food than medicine, right? There's medicinal herbs which are more like medicine and you need to be careful and they can have side effects and they're not always appropriate and all that kind of thing. And then there's tonic herbs that are a lot more like food, right? And like with food, not necessarily everyone is always going to agree with all of them, but they are at that level where you can have a decent amount for a long time. And in fact, that's one of the benefits of this longevity blend. But before I skip ahead to that, so why did I make this in the first place? I made this in the first place really for 2 reasons. First of all, as a response to the people who said, Elwin, I love the immune blend from Lionheart Herbs, but the thing is you say on the packaging that you shouldn't have it like all the time, right? Or you say in the video you shouldn't have it all the time, and that's right, okay? So, and yet it's good to support the immune system on an ongoing basis, right? To prevent illnesses and to, keep yourself as healthy as possible for as long as possible. I said, absolutely. So I said, well, what do I do then? And so that's really where the longevity blend came about. It's something that's safe for long-term use because the herbs in longevity, which are all medicinal mushrooms, and I'll go through them all in a minute, are all very mild, right? They're all very safe. And so you can have longevity, every day over a long period of time, and you do nothing but benefit your system. So now if you're wondering why we would want to have these medicinal mushrooms, which, I would call tree mushrooms or noble mushrooms, that's quite a nice name, is because they have double directional immune system support. And that's why they're safe for use long term. So what does double directional mean? Well, let's give a counterpoint. So one herb that is used quite often for like preventing or even sometimes treating colds and flus, for instance, is echinacea, right? You might have heard of it, you might well have used it. And echinacea is awesome, right? I have it in my cupboard as a just in case thing. However, the thing about echinacea is that it has one direction when it comes to the immune system, and that's up, right? It boosts it, it increases its capacity. Now, while this can be a good thing, it can actually be a not good thing because a lot of people's immune systems are actually chronically overstimulated because of constant systemic low-lying infections related to chronic conditions, right? And so a lot of the time, the immune system actually just needs to be calmed down unless there is an infection to fight, okay? So the wonderful thing about all of the medicinal mushrooms in the longevity blend is that they will do whatever's necessary. So if your immune system needs to calm down and rest and recover and restore its reserves, then it will move it in that direction. Whereas if it needs to be stimulated, if it needs to be boosted, if it needs to be increased, it will move it in that direction. And that's what puts these mushrooms as herbs or really as any health-giving substances, they're in a unique category, like they're in the elite, like the top 1% of herbs because of that thing that they do. They also educate the immune system, right? It's getting a little bit complex maybe, but basically they teach the immune system how to actually work better as part of that double directional kind of capacity. Something that's definitely related to that concept is the idea of an adaptogen, which again you may be familiar with. So an adaptogen is a type of herb or really even substance which helps your body to adapt to the environment, right? And so, for instance, if you're in an environment that was very hot and dry, then it would help you adapt to that. And if you're in an environment that's very cold and damp, it would help you adapt to that, right? So it helps you adapt to extremes in your environment. But probably more interesting, is, to me at least, is that it helps you adapt to stress, right? So one of the biggest reasons why we're all so stressed in this day and age, even in the developing world, even though we have more food and more shelter and all that kind of thing than we've ever had before, is because we have so much new input coming into us constantly, right? In a few hundred years ago, we would tend to see the same few people, see the same few places like our whole life. Now we're like constantly barraged with people, places, information, right? And even though it's a good thing to have all that opportunity, it's a stress on our central nervous system, right? And so this is why all the herbs in the longevity blend also come under the category in Chinese medicine of being Shen herbs, right? Which means that they help to calm and relax and also nourish the spirit, right? And so what, maybe the spirit is a bit too ephemeral a term, but, we could look at that as the central nervous system, right? And the brain. So helping to bring the brain waves back into harmony, helping to keep the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system in harmony. And usually what we're talking about is the sympathetic nervous system is too active, right? There's too much fight or flight, there's too much stress. The parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest part of the nervous system, is too inactive, right? We're not resting enough, we're not digesting enough. Even if we're sleeping and eating a lot, we're not actually truly resting while we're sleeping, and we're not truly digesting what we're eating, right? So it's bring that back into balance. So all those kind of aspects and more of the central nervous system. So that's definitely another benefit. And then I'd say, one last point is to actually nourish the central nervous system. And in fact, one of the herbs, which I'll mention in a minute, has been shown by research to actually give constituents which can help the central nervous system regrow in the face of damage, which is quite incredible. But all of the herbs, to some degree, whether it's the polysaccharides in them, which are probably one of the most important health promoting constituents, polysaccharides, which are very complex sugars, or whether it's the triterpenes, which are more the antioxidant capacity, or any of the other hundreds of constituents in there. A lot of them are actually nourishing the central nervous system as well as the immune system in general. So let's look at what the blend contains. I'm just going to give you these all at once. We have reishi, chaga, lion's mane, turkey tail, cordyceps, maitake, and shiitake. So these are all exceptional mushrooms, right? The one we may be most familiar with is the last one, because it's something that's often used in culinary use, although, sometimes maitake is something that you would actually cook with as well. Some of them, like reishi or chaga, I guess particularly, you would never cook with because they're like as hard as a piece of wood, which is what they, pretty much are. They've grown out of wood, the constituents of wood. So I really encourage you to do your own research on these if you're not already familiar with them, because every single one has loads of benefits to the point that I could have made this video hours long, but I want to keep it to the point for you, right? The other reason I can't go into it with all of these to as great a degree as I would like to is because, to be frank, some of them, there's quite, a lot of evidence and research that shows they may be able to help with certain health conditions, right? Which I could never in a million years make any claims about as someone who actually provides them, but you could go and look at the internet and find out about what these various things do, and you'll be quite amazed. They're incredible, okay? So reishi is, a classic spiritual herb, a central nervous system calming herb. Chaga is a fantastic adaptogen herb. Lion's mane has that nerve regrowth thing that I was mentioning a minute ago. I could go on, right? The point is, all of these mushrooms are incredible. Together, they're a fantastic blend. They're something that you can have every day. The taste is mild, more mild than I think all of my other blends now, except for digest. So I've had people who said to me before, for instance, your blends are quite strong for me, and I tend to need to have them after a meal usually, like not first thing in the morning, in other words. But with this one, I can even have it first thing in the morning. Like, it's mild, it's very, very food-like, even compared to the other tonic herbs. It's something that feels very nourishing. How you prepare it, you can absolutely have it like the other herbs where you add some kind of sweetener, but you can even consider you can add this one to food because it is so food-like. Of course, it's a blend of mushrooms ultimately, so any food where you might, put mushrooms traditionally, like a soup or a stew or whatever, you can actually put, a teaspoon or even a couple of teaspoons in, a bowl of soup that you're going to eat or something like that. That's another great way to have it. All kinds of ways to really prepare it. So yeah, that's it. That's the longevity blend. I hope you enjoy it. As always, I appreciate your feedback about it. Thank you for watching.